Okay, so welcome to the daily miracle class, to the class where we look at one of the key lessons of A Course in Miracles. So I'm happy that you're here, gathered around me, and I love to see that we're, say, full on doing this. It's really lovely. That's wonderful. And I mean, you show up. That was the requirement. So today we're looking at the idea of salvation, and that's a bit of a, wow, big word. At least you can hear it like that. So we're going to take a look at it from a couple of angles, and one that will make it very clear for you what is actually meant by it. But say an essential part of the class too is looking at lesson 99, where we actually read that forgiveness and salvation are the same thing. And so that's going to be interesting, because salvation is kind of an abstract word, isn't it? So today in the class we look at salvation, forgiveness, all that. And first we start with quieting down by coming into presence here, coming into, oh yes, this is the only thing I'm doing right now. I leave everything behind what happened a moment ago, and this for me, in order to be fully present in what is going to be given to us in this present moment, and say with a joint purpose that we have of awakening to the, say, having the awareness of the reality of who we are in our consciousness. We practice this, and maybe receive this as one. You know, that's our possibility here. Receive this as one, and not making any differences, not making exceptions, not analysis or whatever. It's like, no, your intellect can really sleep for a moment, can really just relax, and don't think that you will miss something by not using your intellect. No, it's really the opposite way. So you will come to it in lesson 99, and in chapter 25, the remedy. The name of the chapter is the remedy. We'll take a look at some aspect of it. And first of all, it's important to remember that this is a miracle class. It is not logic. It is miraculous. And so in order to freshen up some of the miracle principles, I will read some of them to us, to just for a moment stand still with, say, entering into the place where we are doing this, or what is occurring, what are the possibilities. In fact, increasing the possibilities for ourselves by having a miracle mind opening up in us. So for the miracle principles, we go back to chapter 1, and some of the miracle principles are stated here. For instance, on page 10 of the book. Miracles attest to truth. They are convincing because they arise from conviction. Without conviction, they deteriorate into magic, which is mindless and therefore destructive, or rather, the uncreative use of mind. Each day should be devoted to miracles. God created time so that man could use it creatively and convince himself of his own ability to create. Time is a teaching device and a means to an end. It will cease when it's no longer useful for facilitating learning. Miracles, that's on B22, it's like miracles are natural expressions of total forgiveness. Through miracles, man accepts God's forgiveness by extending it to others. The second step is inherent to the first because light cannot tolerate darkness. Light dispels darkness automatically by definition. Miracles are natural expressions of total forgiveness. Wow, that's so great. So you can feel the totality of that. It's like there's not a little in between kind of deal exchange or something. No, miracles have everything to do with total forgiveness. And total forgiveness is probably easier than partial forgiveness, because partial forgiveness is not actually forgiveness. So here already we come into the sphere of salvation and forgiveness. So I'm going to look for one more miracle principle. A miracle 22H, B22H. A miracle rearranges the order of perception and places the levels in their true perspective. This heals at all levels because all sickness comes from confusing the levels. Miracle rearranges the order of perception and places the levels in their true perspective. This heals at all levels because all sickness comes from confusing the levels. Okay, so this will come back to us too, like true perception. True perception is in fact a part of the forgiveness. So forgiveness is not what you think it is. That's also good to know. Even just like salvation, it's not what you think it is. So what is it then? Well, that's the question that you're going to get an answer to with what we're going to read. And it will be so clear, because in chapter 25, Jesus shares with us absolute clarity in what you do when you come to this point where you start to accept something that is not true. So we'll come to that later. So first I want to read something from, say, lesson 99, our key lesson for today. And the key lesson is just, say, one of the miracle lessons that is packed full with new principles, new ideas that are, say, falling into place literally in what we read. You will discover that today too. One of them was already forgiveness and salvation is the same. It's like what can offer you a greater experience for yourself than total forgiveness, not leaving anything outside of that. So lesson 99 on page, I think 335, 335 of the Urtext Manuscripts. So it starts immediately off with the key sentence too. Salvation, so on page 335, salvation is my only function here. So I read the first paragraph. Salvation and forgiveness are the same. They both imply that something has gone wrong, something you need be saved from or forgiven for, something amiss that needs corrective change, something apart or different from the will of God. Thus do both terms imply something impossible, yet which has occurred, resulting in a state of conflict between what is and what could never be. So that's where the conflict is then. Thus do both terms imply something impossible, because if God created everything perfect, there's no such thing as imperfection. But the impossible has seemed to have occurred. Thus do both terms imply something impossible, but yet which has occurred, resulting in a state of conflict between what is and what could never be. So, and this is like fundamental of what we're doing today. It's like this conflict between, okay, something has happened, seems to have happened. I'll say it like that. It seems to have happened, yet it could never have happened if God created you perfect. So forgiveness then is to see this for what it is. It's like it could never happen. So I think something went wrong, but that's a mistake that can be corrected. Because in fact nothing occurred that, say, denies the perfection of your creator. And this is kind of logic, isn't it? And so that's good. We can use that logic. So all this is not about terminology. So all this has to do with how you are experiencing yourself. Because when you experience conflict, you're agitated, you're angry, you're afraid, you're sad, you're who knows what happens. For sure, it is not perfect happiness. That's for sure. So everything that's not perfect happiness is conflict, in fact. So you got used to conflict, and that will not change immediately. Maybe we get to that too. It's somewhere in 25 too. Since I'm reading this chapter now and recording it, all these things come up. It's like, oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, no, there's in chapter 25 something about that too. I know that for sure. So here we are. So like I said, it has nothing to do with terminology. This is not about terminology. No, this has to do with your well-being and with your choice for happiness and with your choice for letting yourself be free from what you think has occurred, but which in reality didn't have any effect. So I'm still talking a bit like on an abstract way. Maybe you call it vague, or so we get into more detail later. So bear with me. So another paragraph. Truth and illusions both are equal now, if you think that something has happened that is impossible. Truth and illusions both are equal now, for both have happened. The impossible becomes the thing you need forgiveness for, salvation from. Salvation, then, is the borderland between truth and illusion. It reflects the truth because it is the means by which you can escape illusion. Yet it is not truth because it undoes what was never done. So here's a question then. How could there be a meeting place where where earth and heaven can be reconciled within a mind where both of them exist? Well, you have an answer to that? So is there such a place where it comes together? Well, we're going to see. The mind which sees illusions thinks them real. They have existence in what they are. They have existence in that they are thoughts. And yet they are not real because the mind that thinks these thoughts is separate from God. So there's a crux. There's a crux. Like the mind that thinks these things, thinking that something has occurred that's actually not possible and doesn't, join with the idea of perfection like you were created, it doesn't make sense. And also it's like, well, it is a mind that thinks that it's separate from God, which is, as we saw in the miracle principles too, is impossible. So there is no such thing as a separated you from God. See, and that is not just an idea. So in fact, this is the release for you from your ideas, recognizing that the ideas are based on the fact that you are separate from God. They will not make you happy. They will make you depressed. They will make you feel lonely. They make you, it's like a detour. It's like it makes you afraid. Like, what's happening? Why is this happening? Why does it look this way? Why am I in this? And see, these are good questions then, because in fact, when you experience that, it becomes clear that you actually believe something that has no basis in reality. You think that you're separate from God, and you can't. You cannot be separate from God. So the part of the mind that thinks those things is not you. It is thoughts. It is superficiality. It's superficial. So when you would come to the depth of what you're thinking, you would see that it's insane to think like that. It's like, no, there's no reality. That doesn't make any sense. So this is really good to be aware of this. Okay, so in L5 we continue. The Holy Spirit holds this plan of God exactly as it was received of him within the mind of God and in your own. It is apart from time in that its source is timeless. Yet it operates in time because of your belief that time is real. Unshaken does the Holy Spirit look on what you see, on sin and pain and death, on grief and separation and on loss. Yet does he know one thing must still be true. God still is love, and this is not his will. God still is love, and this is not his will. That's what the Holy Spirit knows. It's like that part of your mind. You can call it your Holy Spirit. It knows God still is love, and this is not his will. See, then you already feel when you would say that to yourself in conflict, that you start to, say, pull in your investments in what you thought has just occurred. Like, no, this cannot be his will. I must have been wrong. I have to decide again to look at this in a different way. And here really comes our, say, miracle mind. Because when you're open to receive another opportunity, to receive at least the idea that there's another option possible, that would already be totally helpful. And instead of sinking deeper into your, say, oh, what happened? Oh, I'm so wrong. I did it so bad. I'm so guilty. Oh, I'm so this and that. And you make a reality of your separation. And it makes you very unhappy and very angry and very, whatever the emotions are that are coming up in you when you feel separated. So coming back to, I don't have to do that. I don't have to slide into that. So I come back. With this mind training that we do, we learn every hour or every couple of times an hour, like in the review lessons now, in, say, 110 that are coming up, 111, that's already starting. It's like every hour, twice an hour, on the half hour, you remember this. It's like, oh yeah, wait a minute. God is the light in which I see. I cannot see in darkness. Oh yeah, light and strength are one. That's the same. It's like, oh yeah, so it's so good to remember. So during my day, when I feel darkness, so to speak, just like this is, in fact, that you feel that you're in conflict. What is that but darkness? What is that but hell? Like, you feel separated, you feel lonely. It's like, you feel that something has gone wrong because you're not happy and you don't know how to get back out of it. When you come to the place where you actually allow a correction to take place, then we're good. It's like, that was not so difficult. Oh wow, I made such a drama out of this, but now I got back to this. Okay, so this goes on continuously during your day. You sink into a situation, you feel the conflict coming up. It's like little thing seems to be like really important suddenly, and it's really in your way of not feeling good. And your brother did something to you, or this one did something to you, or you heard something on the news, or you thought something about someone else that really upset you. Like, why did this person do this? I cannot believe what he did. Look at what he did. So you have your conflict during the day, for sure. It will come up. And by practicing ourselves in the mind training that we do, by using these lessons, applying them in the moments, whether you are like motivated or not. In fact, you can just even say the sentence and it would already do something to you, because like, oh yeah, this is not God's will. Wait a minute. It's not to become like, no, it is more like you do this to keep your, you could say like keep your lamp filled, to stay in light instead of sinking back into darkness. So immediately there's something available for you to recall. In fact, the fact that you are not separate. So that's so lovely about these lessons. And I love the practice of it, but also like it is a real help, necessary help. Like it's inescapable. You will have to do this in order to say shift slowly but certainly in the right direction in terms of there's no situation where I can be separate. No, there's no such thing as separation from God. No, there's only God's will. And that is my will. I align with that. That's the only way for me to be happy. And on a moment-by-moment basis, it is being exposed to me what that means. And any kind of obstacle that I'm perceiving in terms of somebody doing something or another body doing something, then I allow this correction to take place in me. It's like, wait a minute, that's perception. I really thought something had really occurred. No, that's not it. That's not it. There's no opposition to the will of God. Like there's nothing else but the love of God. There's no exception to that. See, and that starts to make you happier and happier and happier, because it is a relief continuously, because you don't know how to deal with your human situations in which you experience conflict. You don't know how to resolve it, and you don't know how to deal with it, really. That's why they're coming back. So that's great practice. So let's see what's in there. Oh yeah, so salvation is your function with the one to whom the plan was given. And the one to whom the plan was given. Now are you entrusted with this plan along with him, along with your Holy Spirit. He has one answer to appearances regardless of their form, size, depth, and attribute they seem to have. See, it's all about appearances. It's all about things that you see, perceive, think, and feel, and it's all appearances, that's for sure. It's like their size, depth, attributes they have. It really doesn't matter what form they come. And the situations are there, the appearances are there, and most of all, you esteem them as real. That's the main thing. And that's also the point that you have to recognize. Oh yeah, wait a minute. I'm seeing this. I'm the one seeing this. I'm the one perceiving this. I'm going to say, keep this sentence close, keep the lesson title close to myself. And which one is this? Salvation is my only function here. God still is love, and this is not his will. Bam. God still is love. This is not his will. Well, like no discussion, no in between, no unclarity. No, you perceived it. It is stirring up a conflict in you. This is not God's will. No matter what form, no matter what occurs. All this, like none of that matters. Here it is. So in chapter 25, in the remedy, you'll see that it's really about the same subject. Very close to this lesson, which is really cool. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So I started reading the remedy today with a very specific title. I cannot even recall it. It's like commuting the sentence with a capital S. Commuting the sentence. I wouldn't even know what that means right now. So that's on page 234. See, I'm probably not continuing on lesson 99 the way that I read it just a moment ago, but it's really great to read it again and see it in this light. It's like, oh, this is how clear this is. I see something that I really think is there, going on, like an appearance. I really think it is happening. It stirs up conflict in me. It is not God's will. It has no reality. And now what? And now what? Well, all the things that I was planning to do, all the things that I tried to do with myself in order to get even, or to say enjoy the conflict, so to speak, that is all the ammunition is taken away from that. No, this is not God's will. It has nothing to do with reality. Let it go. Let it go. You don't have to do anything with it. But it is not true. It did not happen. It is not where you think it is. Okay, so 234. And actually, I'm starting with G6. It's going straight into salvation. G6. Salvation is no more than a reminder this world is not your home. Its laws are not imposed on you. Its values are not yours. And nothing that you think you see in it is really there at all. And this is seen and understood as each one takes his part in its undoing, as he did in making it. He has the means for either, as he always did. The specialness he chose to hurt himself did God appoint to be the means for his salvation from the very instant that the choice was made. His special sin was made his special grace. His special hate became his special love. So that's quite a beautiful paragraph. That's why I make a little note. Yeah, yes, this one, please. This one, please. This is so great. Salvation is no more than a reminder this world is not your home. Its laws are not imposed on you. Its values are not yours. Wow. So I see something in there that doesn't feel right. Well, that's great, because it is also not your home. It has nothing to do with you, in fact. So it's also not God's will. And it dissolves, in fact. In fact, you see it for what it is. It's like, oh my God, yes, I forgot about that. I'm not from here. I'm not from this world. So I'll read the next sentence again. And nothing that you think you see in it is really there at all. See, that's why it's so, say, total to read this as like nothing. There's no exception. So nothing that you see in it is really there. Nothing. Nothing that you think is in there is really there. And how do you know? How can you possibly trust this if you have really put all your faith in this world and seeing that as the place where you are? Like, wow, look at the undoing that's taking place. Slowly but certainly the fundamentals of your, say, belief in it, your roots are literally being taken out of your belief system that this place is real. It's like, no, you're no more really here than I'm really here. Like, this has nothing to do with you, this place. You know, it has not the same values. It has none of that. It has different laws. So that's good to remember, because it is what we use in the lesson too. This is not God's will. This world you see has no reality. It's of your own making and it does not exist. Wow. So slowly but certainly there's this, like I said, there's this shift going on. Push to the other side of this. It's like you start to accept it. You start to see that this is true. And actually you start to become excited with the fact that you're not from here and that you're not here at all. So that's why it's interesting to meet in class too. It's like more and more it becomes clear that what is happening here, what appears to be happening here, is not taking place in this online class. Like, no, this is not the place where we meet. We meet in another place where we are one, where we are actually connected and communicating beyond time and space. That's the place where we know each other from. See, that's why it's also very familiar to see one another. It's like, oh yeah, I know you, of course. of course I know you. You're one with me. Like you're, yeah. If I give up my idea of differences and of separate bodies and of location and of time, and which are like quite fundamental, but if I give up these beliefs, I immediately fall into the experience that we are one. And that's how great this works. So that's, see, a miracle mind, and you can say is quite an expansion, because it is the one option that you could never even imagine was true. But it is the only option that is true. So in total forgiveness, in a moment of total forgiveness, you come to the place where you actually start to feel this, that you're completely connected and that there's no separation and that this place is not real. And you literally shift into invisibility, as one of the other principles says. But to the time, say up to the time that you believe this place to be real, or take any aspect out of it that you think is real, you will not experience that. So that's good to hear that, isn't it? It's like, that's pretty amazing if somebody tells you that. That is pretty amazing, because this is in fact your one, say, eye of the needle kind of story. It's like this is the one option for you to get out of this where you actually don't belong. Up to that moment, you're locked into it because you believe it's true. Well, we come to that later in what we read too. It's like, if I get to it, who knows? So H2, I continue. Yet is it possible that God created what God created not should share the attributes of his creation, say the characteristics of his creation, when it opposes it in any way? It cannot be the sinner's wish for death is just as strong as is his will for life. Nor can the basis of a world he did not make be firm and sure as heaven. How could it be that hell and heaven are the same? Well, there we have it again. How could it be that hell and heaven are the same? And is it possible that he did not will, what he did not will cannot be changed? What is immutable besides his will? And what can share its attributes except itself? What wish can rise against his will and be immutable? If you could realize nothing is changeless but the will of God, this course would not be difficult for you. Oh wait, this is good to read. If you could realize nothing is changeless but the will of God, this course would not be difficult. For it is this that you do not believe. You think that God's will is changed, full of change too. Yet there is nothing else you could believe if you but looked at what it really is. Let us go back to what we said before and think of it more carefully. It must be so that either God is mad or this world a place of madness. Okay, so here's a question then. Is God mad or is this world a place of madness? Well, that's not so difficult, is it? That is not so difficult. Oh my God. So, okay, so you got your option. Not one thought of his makes any sense at all within this world. And nothing that the world believes as true has any meaning in his mind at all. Wow. So this is great. Like, nothing that the world believes as true has any meaning. Wow. And not one thought of God makes any sense at all within this world. So now you can choose. Like, wow. So there's one key sentence I want to come to. I'll see where I can find it, because otherwise this would be so great to use. Oh yeah, here it is. So age 5. So and then I'll stop reading, and because this I don't want to miss this sentence. So here, to justify one value, that the world upholds, is to deny your father's sanity and yours. So to justify one value that the world upholds is to deny your father's sanity and yours. For God and his beloved Son do not think differently. And it is the agreement of their thought that makes the Son a co-creator with the mind whose thought created him. And if he chooses to believe one thought opposed to truth, he has decided he is not his father's son, because the son is mad, and sanity must lie apart from both the Father and the Son. This you believe. See, and it does not depend in what form it comes to you. It's like, okay, so no matter what form, we read it in the same lesson too. So this is so exactly lesson 1999, that's unbelievable. It's like literally the same words. And I could not believe it when I read that. It's like, wow, that is so beautiful. So value one thing here, thinking that you are, say, I have to read the text. Okay, I'll get back to that later. So one thing you value that has no reality and truth, say, in fact, in that moment you confirm you're not your father's son. You're not, say, created by God. You're not part of his sonship. You're not one. So this hurts you, this hurts you, because in fact you start to separate yourself off from the oneness with God. And then even if you wanted to experience some relief in terms of feeling a moment of oneness, or having an experience of communication with your Creator, like that will not happen because of your value system. You value something, say you invest in something in this world and make it a reality for you, and that comes with the sacrifice of, in fact you sacrifice your beautiful communication that's direct and immediate, and where you experience the love of God that you're looking for so badly deep inside your heart. So that's why this conflict that you become aware of starts to, say, come up increases in intensity. When you do this, when you start doing the Course in Miracles, when you start doing these lessons, suddenly you feel like, wow, I'm so edgy right now. Because you know there's something else. You know that there's an alternative, but still you don't know how to get out of it. Well, then you see, like, the thing that you value, the thing that you accept as true, does a lot. That's why we always say at the beginning of the class, like, relax, leave all the concerns and concepts, leave them all outside, because you don't need them, and actually they're in the way for you to have a full-blown experience of your happiness, of your relationship with what is. So in order to have a healing experience, in order to have a moment of a relief of, oh my God, I'm so happy that I can let go of these ideas. I'm so happy that I can relax, fall into my Father's arms just for a moment, and then do whatever I need to do. But it's like, then I choose to have that happen. I want that to be true for myself. So that's why picking up this training is really helpful to you, because like you use time constructively, like you use it to remember your function. Your function is to be aware of your oneness with God. Like, so we say then salvation is your function, like forgiveness is your function. Salvation is your function. Forgiveness, forgiving that part of you in which you have valued something that has no reality, where you made a mistake, in other words. So when you allow, the whole forgiveness part is then you allow that mistake to be corrected. And now it seems like this mistake can be very big in your mind because you're so invested in the guilt that holds it, so in the sin and the guilt that is connected to it. So it can be a big deal for you, so to speak, but it's worth trying to let this be changed for you. So you got a comforter. You can bring this to your Holy Spirit and say like, okay, here it is. I know there's another option, but I don't know how to get to it. Here's my stuff, so to speak, that I don't want any longer. And I want salvation, in fact. I want to fulfill my function. I want to be happy, which is, that's my function, being happy. Not being in conflict and sinking down into darkness, into conflict, anger, and fear. No. I'm not going to let that happen this time. It's like, no, this is not God's will. I'm staying right here. I ask for help. It's like, I don't know how to do this, but I know I don't want to be in conflict. Take this from me. I gotta let go of this in order for me to fulfill my function and be happy and to feel the will of God flowing through me instead of something opposing me. So that is in fact lesson 99. So you see, it is really bringing things closer to the point where you decide, where you see like, oh, okay, I got to be careful in what I accept to be true. I got to be careful what I accept and what I can reject, in fact, or deny. Is like, you deny the denial. You say like no to what is not real. And it becomes more and more clear what it actually is. So that's why it is a training. That's why we go through all these exercises. But say the motivation is to become free of conflict, to have moments of peace of mind, to remember who you are, to fulfill your function. To just be happy. It's like, you know happiness. You know where that is. You recognize that as one of the, say, essential parts of you. So, great. Maybe we can read a miracle prayer in order to find this place, to find this salvation. Oh, yeah, here's a good one. And it's on page 400, lesson 254. I'll read it to you. Let every voice but God's be still in me. Father, I would but hear your voice today. In deepest silence, I would come to you, to hear your voice and to receive your word. I have no prayer but this. I come to you to ask for the truth, and truth is but your will, which I would share with you today. Today we let no ego thoughts direct our words or actions. When such thoughts occur, we quietly step back and look at them, and then we let them go. We do not want what they would bring with them, and so we do not choose to keep them. They are silent now. And in the stillness, hallowed by His love, God speaks to us and tells us of our will, as we have chosen to remember Him And in this stillness, hallowed by his love, God speaks to us and tells us of our will, as we have chosen to remember him. Alright, so I'm going to play a little song connected to that idea of listening. So we'll be quiet for just a second. Well, thank you for this. Thank you.